Yes, Mirasol Resources, focused on discovery. Here's the cautionary statement, and you can see that on our website on this presentation. Some key highlights here. We want to start on Mirasol has been working on highly prospective and mine-friendly jurisdictions of both Chile and Argentina since the inception of the company. And over that time frame, obviously, we have established an in-country permitting and operating experience at a very high level, which is an extraordinary advantage when working in either one of those countries. We've maintained to keep the conservative share structure with a significant insider ownership, which you'll see on the next slide. And we are focused on our flagship property, Sobek, and working up to reinitiate that maiden drill program coming up here in October. Share structure and treasury still well funded. As of the quarter ending December 31st, 2023, we had $4.2 million Canadian in the treasury, and that has been adjusted for estimated expenses and also proceeds from the financing in April. Conservative share structure still, after being public since 2005, just under 70 million shares outstanding, just over 71 on a fully diluted basis, and the market cap is about $32 million Canadian, which we consider significantly undervalued from what you'll see in the portfolio today. So of that 70 million shares, management and directors own 30%, institutional is about 15%, high net worth individuals about 12%, and of course all the rest here is retail. So flagship self-funded project, this is Sobek, located up in north central Chile in the yellow dot here. How did we get into Sobek? And we've gone over this before, but this dates back to 2015, 2016, during Mirasol's project generation initiatives in the high Andes along the Chile-Argentina border, basically looking for those north-northwest Transandean lineaments, which are the key controls in almost all of the major deposits in Chile and Argentina. You always want to see that north-northwestern, intersecting other structures as well. So we're looking for gaps in the metallogenics, and that means a lack of advanced projects or mines within that gap. And in this case, within the Sobek area, we have the globally recognized districts of the Maricunga to the north and the El Indio Belt to the south. So that was the gap we originally staked our properties of Sobek in. Obviously today, that gap no longer exists, and we've become a strategic position in the Vicuña district. And the Vicuña district, for the most part, is from the work over the last 23 years, 25 years by the Lundin group of companies. So you can see on the map on the left here, the orange properties are our Mirasol package, Mirasol Sobek North, Sobek Central, and Sobek South. We've staked the new project, our new property actually, Sobek 46 here, just south of Rosita. And this big yellow Rosita package came in from our consolidation effort with Sokimich in the area. And we've brought in those properties into our Mirasol package now. And you can see Barrick is off to the west, Codelco is off to the south. So there's a lot of activity in the area with some pretty well-known companies currently working in the district. This simplifies it a little bit. So now we're in the Vicuña district, the giant copper gold district, which has become globally recognized, as I mentioned, because of the Lundin Group, up in the Mayo-Pliocene belt of northern Chile. And you can see here how we sit in Sobek North in the southeast corner, just 3 kilometers to the west of Lunahuasi. That's NGX's recent discovery. Further south here, where Filo del Sol resides by Filo Corporation, or with the new incorporation of our Rosita package, now we're approximately 3 kilometers to the west of Filo. And down south, there's a lot of companies also holding properties and advancing their projects. With the incorporation of Rosita, we've now doubled our footprint in the district. We're well over 22,000 hectares. All of this ground is prospective for porphyry copper and high sulfidation epithermal gold. And as I mentioned, this was staked on the basis of that prospective local geology and structural architecture. This is high Andes exploration, but it's relatively easy high Andes. This is actually a 3-hour drive from the mining hub of Copiapó. And we come in on a highway, 114 kilometers of paved highway to get to this gravel road. And it's about 40 kilometers down this gravel road to get into the guts of our project. And that road is actually the road that Filo and some of the other projects on the Argentine side use for their servicing. A lot of the services come in from Chile. So that road is very well maintained by the companies actually working along the border here, mostly the Lundin group of companies. Sobek, with the incorporation of Rosita, if you recall, back in August of 2021, we did a regional air mag survey over the entire district on the Chilean side. So now with the incorporation of Rosita, I've been able to put more data on the screen to share with everybody. And you can see this data is actually quite remarkable. X marks the spot here. You can see the high mag responses up in here in El Potro, also very large center down here where the vein zone is, where Rosita 40 is, and down south into Sobek 46. You'll see those further on in the presentation. But that air mag survey really focused us into where we wanted to prospect on our property initially. And I think at the end of the day, it really did give Mirasol a significant advantage in the district. You can see on the right here, the green borders are actually the Rosita property. So it's over here. That X is actually this alteration spot on the map. And you can see down below, there's a large, looks like a strata-bound alteration with strong iron oxides all around it, that red coloration. So that's a target we want to follow up come spring. We haven't been in there very much yet, so we'll be looking forward to getting back in. That's just something that's come along with the Rosita package. Up at Sobek, our friend El Nino has been very active in the high Andes this season. We had lots of out-of-season snowfalls that actually fell on top of the existing hardpack snows, and then unseasonably high temperatures, which gave a very, very strong runoff. All of our access roads were actually washed out, going up to Sobek North and coming back south into Sobek Central. All the roads were washed out. And you can see here the big semis coming up that road, trying to get into Argentina, having trouble getting across the engorged and washed out riverbeds. So the weather event actually lasted 3 to 4 weeks, and we lost that amount of time in prime exploration at mid-season. And then at the end, El Nino brings an early winter to the high Andes. The exploration season in the Vicuña district abruptly came to a halt after several days of continuous heavy snowfall, almost 2 months earlier than last season. If you recall, we came off the hill last year on the 15th of June. This year, we came off the hill in the last week of April. Now, this isn't an excuse because we managed to get a lot of really good exploration work done at the project, which you'll see on the following slides, of course. Just to orient you again, on the left-hand side, this is a picture looking from the south to the east. All the hills in the foreground are Sobek Central, and across that peak and behind resides Filo del Sol on the Chile-Argentine border, and further to the north resides Lunahuasi. On the right-hand side, this is the prospects known to date at our Sobek Central. This is the green wall structures, and over here the Greta Verde structure. These are really, really strongly mineralized structures full of copper, but not targets on their own right. But they've obviously sourced their copper from somewhere. So I'm using this to vector in, and we're betting that the copper in those structures is actually sourced from one of these prospects that we've detected, the CLP zone, the central breccia, or up here at the vein zone. Most of our work to date has been up at the vein zone, and the early campaigns into the vein zone were walk up these slopes, and it took 3 to 4 hours to get up there. He had a couple hours of work before he had to come down in the afternoon. We do have a road up there now, but during those early forays into that area, we were pulling off pretty respectable gold and copper results. And the very last forays up there came back with grades of up to 5 grams gold and 0.22% copper. And you can see here we've got some free gold in these veins. And the veins are these typical white to black quartz magnetite M-type veins that are very common in the Andes Maricunga type porphyries. So we're getting these sheeted vein zones in this area. Now we got the road up there. It took about a season and a half to get up there. So we've got up to the area that we were getting the good results. Came very clear once we get up there, the crews can now get up and explore, be up there early in the morning and have a good long day. Things are coming together now. It's the first thing that was very obvious, I guess, was the structure was open and was increasing in alteration and veining to the southeast. So the intensity and the size of the system appeared to be increasing to the south. The zone of strong localized phyllic alteration with quartz magnetite veining along the road cuts here, select scree sampling, previously pulled off those higher grade samples of 5 grams and 0.22 copper. So down here, these are typical examples of those narrow sheeted vein systems, the quartz magnetite, which are carrying those higher grade values of gold and copper, and those are typical M-type veins. After the Air Mag survey, we actually did another helicopter supported survey, which was the mobile MT survey. And now we have a cluster of mobile MT targets. On the left-hand side, this is our original elliptical anomalies that we had mapped with the MT survey. Now, MT gives you resistivity and conductivity, and it's good for mapping out deeper intrusive systems. And you can see here, it's interesting because our mineralized zones to date, anyway, appear to be on the edges, on the cusps of these elliptical anomalies. Now, whether that's geological or coincidental, we'll find out as we move these projects forward. But with the incorporation of the Rosita package, now we've brought in this other big MT response. I'm just calling it simply MT4. You can see it's larger and probably stronger than the other two. So we're looking forward to getting back in here in spring and starting to prospect and map this system out and hopefully find good, strong alteration and mineralized occurrences along the contacts again. Now, we had talked about our first drill hole would probably be up here in the vein zone, and it was a pretty simplistic model. We just wanted to go up there and put a hole underneath the highest grade results we'd recovered from the vein zone. So that was to go underneath the scree of those M-type veins with the high values. They're probably vertical in character and maybe coming off a porphyry intrusion at depth. So that was our original idea. But once we got the road up there, we were able to bring our geological crews in, bring our geophysical crews in. Now, this is in-house geophysics by Mirasol. So you can see there's two lines here. One goes right across the VN zone, and there's another one here a little bit further south. And on the right-hand side, this is the two profiles. One is resistivity, one is chargeability. This chargeability cloud I've put on the trace here, so you can see how the two of them relate to each other. Now, anyways, on the resistivity, you can see a very, very strong resistor up to 30,000 K, which is extremely high as far as resistivities go. The guts of that resides at about 350 meters depth. On the top, it looks like a blanket type of deposit, which could represent the lithocap, which typically overlies these Andean porphyries, and obviously a component of structural control. That's a very obvious structure here, which is aided in the emplacement of that resistivity anomaly, whatever it may be. Now, if we go down to the lower profile, this is the chargeability, and we're forming a large cloud of chargeability, which usually responds to a pyrite, maybe chalcopyrite sulfides. And these sulfide clouds or halos typically form on top and along the peripherals of porphyry systems at depth. So that model's starting to look pretty interesting. The second line to the south looked identical, so I haven't even put it on the screen, but they're identical. So you can see here we're starting to develop a very nice looking north-northwest trending structural corridor with good geology, hydrothermal breccias, dacite porphyries outcropping on surface. So coming on now to the MT sections, you can see here's the three MT anomalies I talked to you about. We're going to look at the vein zone here, and the three black lines of the three profiles you have on your right. So this was the first one I showed you with the drill hole planned underneath the high-grade samples. As we move south, this one here is not very well developed, but it's starting to develop. And down here on the third line, you're getting just a beautiful cylindrical conductivity anomaly with a nice alteration cap to it. Obviously, structurally control margins. So that is really shaping up to be a good-looking drill target. And it appears to be increasing in size and in strength as we move south. So I've brought this slide back on to this one here, blown it up so you can see that anomaly sits beneath some very good geochemistry. Over here on the left, this is the vein zone up here. Here's the structural corridor coming south. We actually put in a soil grid to try to focus us into the best geochemical areas. Now this line here, the star marks the spot. So that star is actually that star. This is the cross-section line, and this is the longitudinal section going through that. But you can see at the bottom here on this nice magnetic susceptibility anomaly, our soil grid started to produce some pretty attractive copper results in soils. We've also mapped intrusives and tourmaline breccias in the area. So these tourmaline breccias could represent the degassing phase of concealed porphyry at depth, and those tourmaline breccias do have copper. There's visible copper in the rocks there. But if you see here now, we've added more sample sites to the soil grid, and you can see we're starting to develop a really, really coherent and becoming large soil anomaly. It's strong in copper, there's some gold in it, and it's also strong in moly. So those are three elements you want to see when you're looking for Andean porphyries, obviously. And also this occurs at a pretty good structural intersection, which is always good to see. And also up here on the east side of Rosita, and this is actually Rosita 40, we've also got copper, gold, and some moly to the south, also associated with a nice strong magnetic susceptibility anomaly. This is bringing the same slides further down, but on the right-hand side, I've put on our MT conductivity in the background, and I've brought up our 3D magnetic susceptibility depth slices coming down through that. So you can see the deep purple here beneath is the very, very strong conductivity anomaly, a good copper, or a good magnetic anomaly in both the areas, both in Sobek 46 South and also over here in Rosita. Now, Rosita resides with some good copper and gold anomalies, almost 4 grams of gold and 5.4% copper. And over here, this is deeper, but it's interesting. These both occur at the same topographic elevation, which is intriguing geologically speaking. So that those two are developing into a pretty good targets. You can see the cross-section line. So over here is Rosita East, and this one here represents the Sobek 46 South. And up above this, you're actually getting those tourmaline breccias that outcrop on surface. Now, what's interesting here to me is we were originally talking about the vein zone, and that would be our drill target. But now we've extended this to the south, and it's getting into a very, very strong alteration, phyllic alteration, strong magnetic responses, rock chip anomalies, soil anomalies. So now we've effectively got an area that's at least 3 kilometers long in a north-south direction, and we're not sure how wide. So that's really starting to come to fruition, and there's a little bit more work to do here. We got to finish the soil lines, but it's developing into a very strong target. So just to kind of sum up on Sobek Central, we did complete that road up to the vein zone, and the road did serve as a good trench across that area to expose the alteration and their mineralized sheeted vein zones. Lots of exposure to detail some geological work and structural mapping. We did get environmental clearance to continue that road through Rosita and onto the new 46 South claims, extend that road south into the very southern part where the big mag anomaly is. Unfortunately, winter came too early, so we didn't get there. But first thing in spring, the bulldozers will be back up and pushing a road into the south. Obviously, the geochemical soil survey grid will continue to be infilled and continue with alteration analysis on all the samples we take. That IP ground geophysics to refine the targets. We did 2 lines. We want to continue south with more IP lines. Stream sediment sampling program and prospecting, including the Rosita and the new Sobek 46 South claims, will continue. And we want to get back in there to continue with our maiden drill program. But I believe now the first holes in that area will be further south. And I can envision maybe 2 or 3 holes for maybe 1,500 meters as a first test. So with all this information, we're refining drill targets for final evaluation, and it's really coming together quite nicely at Sobek Central and South. I want to go back up now to Sobek North. This is our Sobek North block. We just talked about Sobek Central and the Sobek 46 and Rosita. So we were brought into this corner of the Sobek North block. So this is now Potro Southeast. And we had some good copper, gold, and silver in the stream sediments. So that vectored us into that area. It's vectored us into El Potro, and then finally it's taken us over to a new target called Potro Southeast Porphyry target, which I will talk about. Now you can see here where we're sitting in the southeast corner is about 3 kilometers to the west-southwest of NGX's new Lunahuasi discovery, and they've been drilling in this area and putting out good news since they've started. So in their last reports, they were talking about the drilling to date is vectoring them further to the west to find a potential porphyry source. So effectively, that's pushing them further and closer to us. So this is just a bit of a zoom in here. You can see the pyrite, chalcopyrite, copper sulfides, coarse moly, and these were hosted in younger dikes, monsonitic to cyanitic, intruding the older rocks. This area is underlain by a large magnetic anomaly. And you can see over here on the right, we're getting some good gold and silver just poking out underneath this more mafic unit that sits atop the older rocks here. And you can see over here, Lunahuasi, that mafic unit continues over almost to the border. And in their recent press releases, they have talked about this mafic unit hosting their mineralization, some of their mineralization over at Lunahuasi. Now, I had some helicopter hours left over from Sobek Central when we did our original MT survey. So I brought those hours over here to Sobek North, the southeast corner, and I managed to get a small stamp of mobile MT survey flown, about 13 square kilometers. You can see here we're getting, again, these elliptical anomalies. And interestingly enough here, our moly and copper seem to reside within that ellipse. And then up topography, about 450 meters higher than this area, we're actually getting into an area more epithermal in character, geochemically speaking, and we're getting high gold and high silver results, more epithermal in character. Now this is the MT line, and we've showed you previously this nice target over here, this nice thumb-shaped MT resistor. That's very intriguing. You can see it resides about 500 meters below the surface. It's obviously hosted in a structural block here. This area has been uplifted. It also resides underneath some good geochemistry. So a very interesting looking target. I sent our IP crews in here to try to map out and help us focus with some more resistivity and chargeability readings. And what it did, it actually brought us further to the east, to the southeast. The chargeability line here clipped what looks like a chargeability halo, and this is now being referred to as our new Potro Southeast porphyry target. And this target I'm going to show you is actually coincident mag. It's got soil and rock geochem anomalies, and it's in a very good structural setting. There is no MT coverage here because I didn't get as far over as that when I did my MT. So this one resides about 500 meters below the surface. It's the wrong way there. And you can see here, this is the new Potro Southeast target. So we brought back up our original mag information, and you can clearly see a nice circular mag anomaly, big strong mag high. It's about 700 meters in diameter here. Good rock chip geochemistry just lying above on the surface here. You can see it's cradled within a nice north-northeast structure, which is actually the Ventana fault zone, and another west-northwester here, so it's nicely cradled within that structural setting. And this image on the bottom really brings it home for me. You can see there's been lots of geochemistry taken from this area. Pretty quiet out here, and as soon as you get on top of that mag anomaly, boom, the copper rock chips really go up. Now, I said we clipped something on our IP line. Now, this is the cross-section line, and this is the 3D longitudinal section of that same line. So you can see that strong magnetic high in the susceptibility depth slices going down depth. It's at the deepest part here. It's still about 700 meters wide. The top of it resides at about 250 meters, so it's much closer to surface than our original MT resistivity anomaly. And getting down into the guts of it here, 500 meters and on from there. So on this one here below, I've just put in the chargeability anomaly we clipped on that, and we think it's more related to this anomaly than it is to our MT resistivity anomaly. And I'll just show you here, that's the line. We want to get back there in spring and complete the remaining IP lines, and that'll be a priority activity come spring, which is basically September coming up. So that's the line we have. These are the IP lines we want to put in, and we want to continue to map that chargeability halo and see if we can show that it's surrounding this magnetic high. You can see down here, very clear magnetic destruction zone, which generally reports to alteration, hydrothermal alteration, outbound from a central porphyry system. And it looks almost like that may be structurally controlled there. Now, apart from the rock copper geochemistry, we also put a soil grid, very quick soil grid, over top of the mag anomaly. We're going to tighten that up. There's still some samples pending here, but you can see again here the same pattern. Pretty quiet out here, but once you get over top of that mag anomaly, bang, up goes your copper again. So that's really coming together. And I can really foresee this quickly shaping up to be the first place we test with the drill rig come October. So just a little bit of a summary here. So we do have our environmental clearance for the Sobek North, including El Potro and El Potro Southeast. We got that existing road that came up into the area cleaned up, and we also put a new access road into El Potro. That new road up into El Potro did cut interesting copper mineralized fractures and veinlets in a strongly clay-altered granitic intrusive. It was interesting, the press release just recently out from Philo did also talk about granitic rocks associated with mineralization in the area. So detailed mapping and sampling of the copper porphyry target at Potro East will continue in spring. The geophysical IP surveys completed testing the upper zones of the El Potro MT resistive anomaly were completed, and that's vectored us over to the Potro Southeast now. So we'll be doing more geophysical IP surveys at the new Potro Southeast cylindrical magnetic target. That's what we had clipped the chargeability zone. Only one line is completed over that target to date. So we're looking forward to getting back there in spring and finishing that off. And this is really shaping up to be our first priority drill target for next season, which I can foresee being in October of the upcoming spring season. Now, apart from Sobek, which is our flagship property at the moment, all of our, a great percentage of our efforts and energies and funds are going into Sobek Behind the scenes in Mirasol, there's a large portfolio of really high quality projects as well. On this list here, it's between Chile and Argentina, any one of those projects could be peeled off as a standalone. We've also got our silver deposit down here at Virginia in Santa Cruz. So these group of properties will be moved forward in the future, either by self-funded, bringing in joint venture or option partners, potentially liquidating assets, selling royalties on these projects. There's lots of flexibility we have to deal with these other properties in the portfolio. And these properties at the moment are not reflected in the share price of Mirasol. Thank you so much for your attention.